Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Okay, we're doing the drinks. It was late enough in the day that you were surprised to hear a knock on the door, seeing who's waiting on the other side. Holy crap. Thank you for subbing for like 15 months. That was loud. I didn't know it would be that loud. Seeing who was waiting on the other side only doubled the surprise. Good evening, Beanie. I've returned from my journey. Baxter's smile warmed like it was still the middle of the afternoon. Your confusion must have been written all across your face. He laughed as if he could read your thoughts. It was almost a week ago that you'd found Baxter in the same exact spot. He spun a tale about how he put in place some plans to visit old acquaintances in Northern California after his parents had told him they were sending him to Sunset Bird. Baxter soon being in the same state meant that he was reasonably close for a visit, but he learned the hard way how daunting it would be to drive himself to the opposite end of California. Before he left, Baxter ended the conversation with a promise on his return he would tell you of their arrival in person. And there he was, true to his words. It's lovely to see you again. I feel I've been away for an age. That arrangement had seemed like a stroke of brilliance, adding more adventure to my stay in the state and assuring myself I'd see friendly faces at least once in the season. Yet truthfully, I wouldn't have promised such a lengthy trip away from town if I had known who my neighbor was going to be. As pleasant as they were, it simply doesn't compare to what I have here. Aww. I'm flattered. Your smile perked amusedly, but a part of you did sincerely mean it. Well, it always felt nice to be Miss Baxter's candidness was something special. You ought to be. Otherwise, I need to go back to the drawing board for my next attempt at a compliment. For anything else, you let Baxter Ashley come in. He cordially joined you in the family living room. With the greetings and pleasantries all done and invitation talk extended, he got right to the point, as you would have expected from him. Now, I hope I'm not being too forward, but I would like to spend more time with you. In fact, I was wondering if I might take you on a date. I spoke so boldly about that desire before, and it's long overdue. If that's what you also want, of course. Yeah, I've been waiting for this. Crossing arms made it obvious he hadn't even needed to ask. Any trace of caution in his expression vanished, and a wide, confident grin took its place. I'm thrilled to hear that. And obviously, this tentative date would be based on your own schedule. It'd be gas if I expected you to drop everything simply because I've only now made myself available. Whenever works best for you, I will accommodate accordingly. It is late today, so I don't expect that, but I am entirely free tomorrow. We must have angered the forces of fate because our schedule keeps clashing. He gave a deep puff of discontent. Baxter's smile faltered. Tomorrow's spending the afternoon visiting family. I don't think I'll be home until pretty late. But we could do something in the morning as long as you don't mind it being kind of short. He placed the suggestion hopefully. It seemed to be a good compromise, but it was hard to tell what Baxter thought. He stood there silently. No lie. I bought some cookies. They're supposed to have decorations on them, and you're supposed to bake them. And you know what? The decoration of the cookies always get muddled when you bake them. It doesn't look like anything. It just looks like a blob. And yes, I'll actually state I baked these cookies before I came down here and sat at my desk, going, damn, I'm not sleepy at all. You know what I need? I need milk, but I can't have milk. I need almond milk or something. But I don't even have that because I don't have any. We don't have milk. It does. My milk does come with pills. I've had chocolate almond milk. I like that. I don't like eggnog. Do you know what I could have? Okay, hold on. I need to go grab it. I'll That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Wait, is this it? Yes, this is it. I don't know if you guys heard me go, is this it? No. Is this it? No. Is this it? No, wait. Yeah, it is. Because I wasn't turning on the light at all. Didn't want to do that. Because I'm too lazy for that. So, I went to the store the other day. And there was a limited edition Ring Pop soda. Is it gonna be good? I don't know. Should I try it though? Or should I try it later? Like tomorrow on Monday when I stream. I actually don't know how long I'm going to be streaming here. I don't know what the soda is going to taste like. It's watermelon flavor, by the way. I'm going to do it. No one can stop me. Y'all ready? Oh, okay. My poor mic. I should have done it away from it. But I wanted you guys to hear like that open sound. No lie, it looks so weird. Too bad the ASMR was at the cost of my mic getting wet. I don't know how I like that smell. My hand is freezing. I'm holding on to it too long. Hold on. Okay. So let me tell you guys this. It is clear liquid. I'm not gonna lie. I would have thought it would have had color to it. It does not. Let me take a picture of it. At this point, I'm really glad I didn't have my camera on. Am I, Doug? Hold on, I need to make sure that. Yeah, okay. Give me 1 moment. And hiccups. Okay. Here's the picture. And then I haven't taken a sip of the drink yet, thank you. But yeah, that's that. And can I. This is the picture next to it. This is the side photo of it. So yeah, it has like no color, and I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, it's limited time. There is a total of 43 grams of sugar in this thing. I am really glad I told my mom that she could not drink this. No. Mm. Ring pops, stick to just ring pops. No. Wild Bill's Craft Beverage Co. I got it. Let me also just tell y'all. It was, I found it at my local not my local. I found it at the, Dollar Tree that's here. Technically, Dollar Tree is not Dollar Tree anymore. It's like $1.25 for it. Yeah. They also that's where my mom got, the new, pillow for, Peaches and Patches to share. That was like $5. The look on his face changed. It was strange. There was a problem, certainly. But if he was free and so were you, what could be that much of a roadblock? Hmm. I don't like it. I just I keep tasting it, hoping I like it, but I just don't. There's like no ifs, ands, or buts. It's no. Why do I keep drinking it? Or what? I don't think so. Pure cane sugar, caffeine free. It's just a weird taste. It's not bad, but it's a weird taste, you know? You've ever had something that, you know, it's fine, it's good, but it tastes weird. Smoky tea is still the worst. That smoky ass fucking tea will always be the worst. Nothing can top that for me. Oh my god, Mad Dog. My little sister, she had this smoky tea. It legit was smoky tea. That is what it was called, I do believe. Or at least that's what I'm calling it. And I could not stand it. And I would cough every time I try to drink it. I tried to drink it twice. So I tried it. And it just, I could not like it. So I gave it to Voice. And I told Voice to drink it. And then I also said, as soon as I send it to you, it's your issue. So I was getting it off my hands. I'm giving it to you. If you don't like it, you find someone to give it to. That's how that works. Smelled like burnt rubber. It did. Mm, tomorrow or today? Which one? Tomorrow is Monday day for me, so I don't know what I will be playing it. Later today, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We hang out some other day if that's not what you had in mind. Expression shifted again, and not for the better. Whatever caught him off guard in the first place was nothing in comparison. Baxter was getting even more perturbed. And just as quickly, Baxter snapped out of it. He released a steady breath and regained much of his usual relaxed composure with his next inhale. Forgive me for being distracted. Your idea is perfectly manageable. More than that, in fact. I'd prefer it if we didn't put things off to another day. How about we go to a cafe and get coffee or tea, whichever drink you prefer? I've seen some very nice ones when I've been out exploring the area. I haven't patronized any of them yet. Deal, that'd be great. Excellent, tomorrow morning it is then. It was always going to be a busy day, but at least now tomorrow had an added dash of excitement. The anticipation was mutual, and Baxter's tone sweetened. I had to sneeze. Give me one moment. Alright. Have good sleep, bad dog. You got all the details squared away. Baxter volunteered to play a driver for the short trip, and he planned to drop by his house in the morning once you got ready. When that was settled, there was nothing left to do other than to say your goodbyes for the night. Baxter politely dipped his head. Bye, have a good night. You as well. I'll see you soon, Beanie. As he turned to go, you both found little ways to stretch the seconds, lingering for as long as you could. Then he was gone. The rest of the night passed pleasantly. Your thoughts wandered along all the fun past tomorrows could unfold in. Next morning, you're up and out the door like a whirlwind. Your eyes were set on your goal as you went up the hill across the street to the Baxter's condo. Knocking on the door, you tried to guess the cafe Baxter had in mind. You mentioned before there were a few that caught his eye, but you weren't sure what that meant exactly. Your growing curiosity wouldn't have to wait much longer. Or maybe it would. As you stood in front of Baxter's shut condo, you gradually realized it was taking quite a while for him to answer the door, much more than was normal. Blinking your head swivel as you double check for your own sanity that you had the right house. You did, but Baxter was still nowhere to be seen. You ring the doorbell next. Another couple minutes passed, and you finally began to hear a faint clattering inside the house. The door pulled open and cracked. It was barely enough to see Baxter on the other side, wearing a half-lady daze and not his usual outfit. That was for sure. Hey there, Baxter, are you okay? He yawned loudly and then sluggishly followed your line of sight to look down at himself. He found the second it clicked that he wasn't dressed for the event. You guess those were his pajamas. I deeply apologize, Beanie. I'll need additional moment before we can leave. I'm running late, it seems. And he shut the door. You're left there on his doorstep, entirely at a loss. Sir behavior was unexplainable, at least for the second it took for your brain to completely process what had happened. It dawned on you that this was the first time you'd actually seen Baxter before noon, and how that might not be a random coincidence. He wasn't a morning person. Suddenly, the door flung all the way open, nearly knocking you backwards. Baxter was back, and this time you got a full view. Baxter was indeed wearing only his pajamas, black and white PJs, of course. Excuse me, that was rather impolite. You could tell by his tone of voice which incident he was even referring to. Shutting the door in your face, or the way the situation was dragging on forever. It was hard to know. But Baxter moved aside enough that you could pass by. Why don't you come in? He went inside past the entryway and into the living room. At that point, you were more concerned about Baxter safely navigating his own home than you were about even making it to the cafe. You paused to take in the space, unable to help yourself. After all those years trying to avoid this conduct, you're actually inside. Honestly, you never thought that would happen. But as much as you wanted to explore, there was even more unexpected things taking precedent. Your attention returned to Baxter. He closed the door and followed behind. Baxter pinched the bridge of his nose between his thumb and his forefinger as his feet dragged. Please do take a seat. I'm so sorry for not being prepared. I set an alarm for an hour ago, and I know I heard it go off. Somehow, in a matter of moments, that hour disappeared, and now you're here, and I have little doubt about your punctuality. He moved the hand up to rub his forehead with his palm as if to catch the memory lost inside. You didn't rush him. Instead, settling yourself in a chair. I don't know how this could have happened. It's Baxter's word became too mumbled and faint to understand. Then brought your gaze back to him directly. He got an eyeful of his exposed stomach. Baxter was in the process of taking his shirt off over his head, but in his groggy state, the material iron caught on his ears. Hmm. Hold on, I need to blow my nose. Okay. I'm bothered you wait for him to finish. This was easily the last thing you ever expected from someone normally so formal, but you couldn't be that surprised either. Baxter was moving on sleepy autopilot. A flawed one, too. He struggled to free his face from his shirt, and before you could ask him if he wanted any help, Baxter let the fabric go. He adjusted it comfortably back on his body, working through the tiredness to conceptualize a plan B. Then he squinted at you, confused. He followed your line of sight to his wrinkled clothes. Oh no, that's not correct. I'm sorry. I'm used to living with dormaids. They don't care about this sort of behavior. I've lost my manners. I'll go change properly in my room. There's no harm done. I really don't mind. No, no. You understand dismissing your notion completely. He sighed deeply, still seeming absent-minded. You're my guest, and I'm being terribly rude. Please stay here. I'll be back in 2 shakes. That his situation was out of your hands. You watched him fumble his way through the room. Baxter made it upstairs, and the slammed door sent the house rattling. The following dead silence, unless a split second. Sorry! His voice rang out from where you assumed was his bedroom. His next words were even clearer. He must have opened the door and began to speak. I didn't mean to do that at all. That's okay. I think I pulled the door too hard. No problem. That happens. I swear the noise was completely unintentional. He didn't add anything else to that, and you remained where he left you in a rapid growing state of disbelief. To put it nicely, Baxter was a total mess. Somehow the universe deemed you worthy of having a front row seat. Despite not being Baxter's ideal part of the day, he was still trying so hard to make it work. That's consideration and intent meant a lot. And the bedhead, pajamas, and groggy silliness was an added bonus that you were going to treasure. After a few minutes, the clumsy bumping around upstairs faded, as a part of you considered the chances of whether or not he had fallen asleep somewhere. The sound of careful footsteps soon banished that thought. Baxter returned downstairs and properly dressed as well. He drifted his fingers along the button of his shirt, double-checking that everything was in order. Here I am. Good morning. You're pleasantly surprised to see him already. Hopefully he was actually doing as well as he was trying to. Morning, sleepyhead. I can't emphasize this enough. Thank you so much for your patience. I apologize for that unnecessary bump in our plans. Baxter graciously moved beyond his earlier antics. If you hadn't witnessed it firsthand, you probably wouldn't have believed it even happened. Though as you observed him more, you noted the signs. He hadn't erased all evidence of a few minutes ago, if you knew to look for it. His usual pristine, deliberate, put together outfit was pulled and tucked in the wrong places. There were even wrinkles. Baxter turned his head and attempted to press a yawn, and there was a dull edge to his entire demeanor. He hadn't quite reached his usual razor-sharp wit yet. It was all right. You still quite enjoyed the soft, easygoing state of Baxter. So, you're not a morning person? You'd be correct. He let his gaze fall away somewhere to the side, frowning. I'm the furthest thing from being a morning person these days. Good to know, Night Owl. But then his smile slipped, and you could see Baxter's guilt surfacing. I should have missed directly that mornings are, as you might have missed, a challenge. It wasn't always this way. So the older I get, the more the early hours become a chore. I got up and down for school for years, but college allowed me to actively avoid morning classes altogether. Now I can't remember the last time I had an occasion to be out before 11 at the earliest. Baxter rubbed the back of his neck. His frustration with himself was palpable. Boop. Thank you for the boop. Baxter rubbed the back of his neck. His frustration with himself was palpable. Seriously, you don't need to feel bad. Some people are built that way. Nevertheless, it's trying to be entirely lost for a specific chunk of the day. I expected I would have a rough start, but I never thought I'd handled the occasion this poorly. I certainly would have made better choices if I knew this was the sight I'd be showing you. Poor boy. He really thinks it's something to be mad about. It's not, though. He really does. The testing in his voice gradually lessened until the final part was delivered quietly. He couldn't even look at you as he muttered. But if you're still interested, I would be thrilled to go have our charming cafe breakfast. It would be a shame to miss out on the chance. Of course I'm interested. A wave of relief smoothed out the worry from his brow. It was sweet and pulled a quiet chuckle from you. Baxter's feet scuffed over the ground as he followed you out of the condo. He simply shut the door before walking into the street. Voice, when we get to a certain memory thing that we're gonna play, you might want to adopt him. Because I know I felt like I wanted to adopt him. Do we? Do we not? No lie, right now, I don't know if anyone knows this, but or anyone even knows the movie. But I currently have the Thumbelina soundtrack going through my headset right now. That's a that's a really old movie. Thank you for claiming second, Shadow, and thank you for the hydrate. I would like to just state, voice, that is not true. Because you know what? Thumbelina wasn't created by Disney. At least not the one that I'm talking about. If there was another one. This one is the 1994 movie, which was released by Warner Brothers. Woohoo! 10 stream streak. So, and Warner Brothers is now owned by Netflix. So, take that as you want. So, mm, sure. Maybe. I don't know. You couldn't believe he was about to leave. They never like that. Well, with normal Baxter, you couldn't believe it. It made perfect sense with morning Baxter. Baxter paused and his face scrunched up in confusion. He pointed at the condo, found the motion peering over his shoulder. Good catch. Thank you. He waited by the car while he hurried back. From what you could observe, Baxter didn't need any more help locking the front door this time. Though he hesitantly glanced in your direction before he moved, and he gave him a thumbs up, Baxter rejoined you on the road. And while he might have been living in a daze, when Baxter was standing at the driver's side of his car, you could see his focus sharpen. There was a task that neither of you wished him to fail. He unlocked the vehicle and slid inside. You climbed into the other side. Baxter seemed to be in a better control of himself by the second. Seatbelt clicked into place with perfect poise. When you were both ready, Baxter promptly brought up the directions to the cafe. Here we are. Sighing contentedly, you leaned in your seat and soaked in the morning sun coming in through the window. You're optimistic that the date was going to be great. Sighing morning sun. The drive wasn't long at all, and no issues came along. It was smooth sailing. You hopped on the scent wafted from the cafe were enough to pull you towards the propped open front door. Once you were inside, the intermingled smells came easier to decipher. Chocolate, cinnamon, bacon, and eggs, and most especially coffee. There is something about the particular brew coffee that immediately reminds you of your parents. Two of them loved to have long, early mornings in the kitchen with mugs of coffee between them on the counter. They might be doing that at home that very moment. Before you could tug on that thread of thought further, a waiter passed by you carrying a slice of quiche. Read deeply, picking out the various ingredients before your eyes could confirm it. It looked impressively made. Baxter led you towards the showcases. There were even added baskets of bread and other treats there. Every inch of space was fully stocked with options. Clearly, coming early had its advantages, whether you ate anything or not. The sight was delightful. There was a charm to how they presented the fresh pastry. That was the word he'd used when pitching the place charming. Baxter was right on the money there. It was a pleasant little cafe with a comfortably quiet atmosphere. Though it was a bit more formal than a typical coffee joint. You couldn't sit anywhere or order at the front. Remember the waitstaff needed to seat and serve you. You found that detail to be a Baxter thing. It was absolutely him to choose a sit-down restaurant even for a casual breakfast. Server came over and gestured to you to follow her through the room. She brought you to a shiny two-seater table and passed out the menus. Welcome. I'll bring some water, but if there's anything else you like to drink, I could put in the order now. Could take some time to think about it. You'll be like, sir, brought me a black coffee, please. I'd like let's do an iced coffee. Gotcha. I'll get that right out. Just relax and browse the menu. And you're welcome to take a peek at the front and see what baked goods we have prepared today. Please order to your heart's content wherever you fancy. Please don't be alarmed that I don't have much of an appetite in comparison. Coffee's all I need this morning. I get that. It's still pretty early. It is. You weren't entirely sure if you were going to order anything yet. It was a deliberation you had with yourself while Baxter took a break. Like for you, the cafe's layout was open enough that you could observe the glass cases at the front from the comfort of your seat. You passed the time comparing what was printed on the menu to the real-life displays. Soon enough, the waitress was on her way back to your table. She passed out the two waters and then placed a white cup filled with richly colored coffee in front of Baxter. Nice coffee by you. Perfect. Are either of you ready to order? I'm taken care of, thank you. I'd like a pastry. There's no way you could resist. The treats by the front of the cafe look too good to pass up. There's a smell attentively and ready to prepare. I'm all yours. I'd like cinnamon roll. Great choice. That sounds really yummy. I'll get these menus out of your way then, and I'll be back soon with your order. She scooped up the menus and walked away, dropping them off at the front stand before disappearing into the kitchen. Baxter shifted his attention to you. One moment, I need to blow my nose. Okay. Now should his attention to you, and pleased you're getting something to enjoy. Another long ride yawn forcefully derailed Baxter's train of thought. He finally tried to shield you from the image by covering his mouth. Once he wrangled himself back into control, Baxter flashed to a grin, though Christy lost his playful as his eyes remained extra lidded. He had something in mind, but he also seemed fairly content to simply gaze at you languidly. Baxter lifted his coffee and pressed the edge of the cup to his lips. Took a slow sip before putting it down. Baxter propped an arm against the table so he could hold his chin up. Normally that would have been a casual gesture, but anyone watching could tell that he desperately needed extra help keeping his head upright. Before food arrives and seals our attention for you, would it be fine to ask a question? Sure, ask away. What exactly is the event you have on the horizon? Oh, something crazy. I'm just going to see my aunt and uncle. I'm forward to seeing them, but I'm already missing Lee. Who's Lee? My cousin, their daughter. We're about the same age and are friends, but she won't be there this time. She's busy. That response was cut off by another yawn, and one that morphed into a wince. Baxter tried to smooth things with a sweet smile. I promise that was not me being bored. Blinked, and it was hilariously obvious that his eyelids didn't easily unstick. He went down the inside of your cheek and tried not to laugh. It's alright, you're tired. Exactly, please continue. Yeah. Out of my aunt and uncle, it's my uncle who I'm directly related to. He's my mom's younger brother. We'll get along. That's the part of my extended family we're closest with. Well, in terms of location. Laughing, you scratched the back of your head while he explained. Baxter nodded along, focusing on the sound of your voice. The smell softened as you grew more animated speaking about your family. It's not that I don't also have a good relationship with everyone on my mom's side, but they mainly live in Hawaii, so it's a lot harder to go see them in person. My grandparents used to be in California when me and Liz were little, so they could help out, but that was temporarily. And yeah, it was nice having family that we see more often. First trailed off with fond thoughts of your family, and then your eyes snapped open wide. All Baxter did was ask about your plans for the day, and somehow you ended up rambling about so much more. Sorry for getting off the topic. Nonsense. I enjoy listening to everything you shared. Thank you for telling me about your family. It was lovely to hear about them. That's really most people around already know all about that. So it's been a while since I've gotten to talk about it. Glad I could offer you that opportunity. The waitress returned with your order. She placed it carefully on the table. Enjoy! Thank you. You didn't hesitate a single second and gave it a taste. It was good. Since you had basically covered everything about what you were doing later, you didn't need to juggle thinking, talking, and eating, just as Baxter intended. It was nice to preoccupy yourself with this treat. Baxter, meanwhile, only had his coffee, and he was acutely aware of that difference. Baxter pinched the inside of his lip between his teeth while he tried to search through his foggy thoughts for something to say. Would be good company, but he wasn't sure how to accomplish that. Can y'all hear me eating the cookie? Okay. You're welcome, boys. Because I realized as soon as I took a bite, my thing lit up. How about I tell you what happened while I was on my trip? Crap. Yeah, spill all the details. In that case, then, Patrick sat up straighter in his chair and considered how he wanted to begin the story. Focused mindset momentarily overcame the tiredness that clung to him. As the young traveled to Northern California, it was a monumental drive. Several hours of me, myself, and the road. That car was wonderful. It got me there and here again without a single issue. When I had every reason to rebel against all the potholes I accidentally hit. Baxter paused on that note and took a drink of his coffee, placed the cup down on the table, and winced. Somewhat silly now that I'm vocalizing it, but I feel a tinge of guilt for all the miles I managed to put on that vehicle course of this vacation. Sighing deeply, Baxter wore a wistful look. He understood that magnitude on his trip. Hopefully his mystery acquaintance was the laid-back type. On a brighter note, the drive was even more scenic than I imagined. It was a shame I couldn't snap a single picture. Still, I'm grateful that I was able to leisurely travel across the state while I was here. Yeah, I bet it must have been an incredible marathon of sights. And all that fuss to see some old family friends. Believe it or not, they're actually people my parents have known since well before I was even alive. Wow. Wow, indeed. I can't even imagine knowing someone for that many years. Though between you and me, I don't have much of a relationship with them myself. Really, but you went completely out of your way to see them. I know, they've always been fond of me, almost as if I was their own nephew. They're more than happy to open their door to give me this chance. This might surprise you, or perhaps not. I managed to get along famously with an older son, so it was only polite to make a social call while in that relative area, and there was plenty to catch up on and discuss while I was there. We were having to catch some fantastic shows. It's nice that you enjoyed the trip within your trip. Baxter's nose scrunched as he chuckled. He took another quick sip of his drink. Can't agree more. as the kid, as the two of you continued to chat about upcoming plans while finishing your drinks, and also in between several more extended and defiant yawns from Baxter, eventually he glanced towards the windows and his brow pinched. He didn't say anything on his own, so he asked, "What's wrong?" Worried that might be keeping you too long from your other plans. It's not too late yet. I don't want there to be a yet. Your family is important. Do you want to get going then? Yes, that would be for the best. He turned his seat until he caught where the waitress had gone. Baxter waved and she returned a minute later. Could we please have the check? You appreciate the gesture. Cover it. It'll be one ticket. You got it. I'll get that for you right away. As soon as the waitress was out of sight, Baxter let out yet another yawn. But it morphed into a frustrated groan. I'm getting fairly sick of that. As though it didn't sugarcoat a single feeling, piling, Baxter crossed his arms and tightly shut his eye. Fortunately, coffee could only do so much. Baxter only murmured and roughly rubbed the sides of his face. His frustrations manifested visibly as a grimace. Hmm. I could distinctly feel my own eyeballs in my skull due to the strain. His hand dropped onto the table, and the glasses rattled softly. That only made his mood worsen. I hate that. I shouldn't have to be so aware of my own presence in this body. Sorry, Baxter. Sighing, he wondered if this morning was an ill-fated sign all along. It was horrible that he felt so uncomfortable trying to force himself to win a losing battle. Been more than gracious for sitting through my complaints. I don't mind. It'd be better if I could do more. No, you've done more than enough. I shall live through it. He smiled and Baxter gently tried to match it despite how he was feeling. The waitress approached once more with a small black folder and placed it on the center of the tabletop. Can I clear any of this away for you? No rush if you're not ready. Please take it all. We're about to leave. Waitress got right to work gathering the cups. Baxter, meanwhile, picked up the folder and opened it. A few moments, the server was off again, and Baxter peeked at you from over the top. Tap the folder. Thank you, Beanie. I do appreciate you making time for me at the very last minute, especially on a day when you're already so busy. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Of course, it's always a treat to see you. Baxter half played a gaze, lingered contently while he reached in his pocket. And then the star's eyes snapped open. He reached the alertness he'd been striving for in an instant. My wallet. He stared at you helplessly. Baxter was sober and extremely aware of the reality he found himself in. I didn't bring my wallet when I got dressed. I did not recall to take my wallet off the nightstand. Oh, that's fine. It's fine. It's not surprised. I'm not surprised considering how hectic things were. Maybe it's a good thing it's at home. That's better than forgetting it here at the restaurant, which might have happened instead. It intended to be a reassuring thought, but Baxter didn't respond. His expression remained frozen in horror. Understandably, Baxter was mortified. He threaded his fingers through his hair. I'll quickly run back and get it and return, but then I'd have to abandon you here, and that's not any better. Perhaps we might take an electronic payment I can send through my phone. Take it easy. You got a black coffee, not a four-course meal. I can cover for you. Left of his the corner of his mouth twitched, and you read that as a sign that he had at least heard you. Though you suppose it was only because he had reached a dead end in his own ability to solve this problem. Max pumped against his eyes and his fingers curled tightly. He released a slow, shaking breath, reached out only to freeze halfway across the table. From his tense body language, he was trying with great difficulty to keep himself from getting truly upset. Shouldn't push him. You weren't sure how to help or what to do. You could only watch. Exhaled deeply once more, and this time he lowered his hands, folding them neatly on the table. I would appreciate that greatly. Couldn't quite look at you while he spoke, though the forced politeness in his tone reached you completely. Good, this is nothing. I got you. Quick check, he dropped in his panic and slid your card into it. The waiter swung by, he handed it over. There's no trouble to be found at this table. Thanks a bunch, just one moment. She walked off, and you shifted your attention to Baxter. In that brief period, his shoulder had lost their defeated slump. He sat stiffly upright and said, "Said your reaction with a delicate smile. Please don't Mr. Ted. I am entirely fine. The issue is with my behavior towards you. You didn't need to force yourself to make me feel better. It was all my mistake." His lips pressed into a fine line, and it was crystal clear that he was preemptively stopping you from further arguing the situation. You guys dropped to the tabletop, and the awkwardness was too stifling to do anything else. The way Baxter was beating himself up for perfectly normal missteps was horrible. You didn't like it at all. There was a reason why people call those kinds of situations accidents, because there's no manipulative or malicious intent. His only crime today was being human and sleepy. It would have been great to remind him of all that, but Baxter's far too irked to hear any of it. He wanted to move on, so you bookmarked things there. The date wrapped up in a haze. The waitress returned your card. I wished you both a wonderful day. Then you left. Baxter managed to muster up a few things to discuss on the car ride home, but the conversation was distant and disjointed from how you both normally clicked. You made it home safely, though not before silence had time to form. Slamming his door to exit the vehicle was the first you heard from Baxter in a while. So you stood on the street face to face, but the awkwardness from the cafe had also come along for the ride, and it lingered forebodingly. This wasn't something you wanted to continue between you and him. Neither of you made a move to leave, a promising sign that he was struggling with the same thought. Patrick began sliding his fingers through his hair, and then he paused mid-motion and dug his nails into his scalp. His controlled expression strained. Benny, this is all my fault. I'm not. I not only forgot my wallet, but I made things I can speak. Increasingly worse by acting mature about it, undoubtedly making you uncomfortable. It may be hard to believe at this point, but I often can deal with unexpected issues as a reducible adult. Today sang a little more than usual. I'm big enough to admit that. It certainly did not help at all. All this was coming on the heels of the already disastrous first impression. I had been hopeful that I could still fix overall impression by the end. Needless to say, I didn't succeed, and I'd completely understand if you were doubting the merit of a relationship with me at this point, presenting myself terribly to you. How what a mortifying first date to go through. However, if you're willing to, I would like to ask for a second chance. I can take you out again for drinks tomorrow night, or rather, any night you have free. I promise the next one will be better. Aw, look at his little blush. Adjusting a blush rose in his cheeks while he barreled through everything he needed to say before he could get a single word in. Finally, Baxter paused to breathe. Really trying to absorb the magnitude of everything he said. Now that he laid all of his cards on the table, there was nothing left to do but anxiously wait. Above all else, he wedged open a space for you two to talk, and that was a relief. I had a great time today. I'd love to go out with you again. Really? Yeah, why wouldn't I? I know you're embarrassed it happened, but I don't feel the same way. We had fun with a few problems that all worked out. You're far too kind. His gaze was gentle, if only for a single look. Baxter swiftly resumed his usual grin and confidence. I'll be in touch later with a specific time then. Potentially a suggestion for what you might want to wear. Have a lovely rest of your day with your family. Tell your mothers and sisters I said hello. I will. Excellent. See you again soon. You let goodbye. Earnestly seemed to be in much better mood than only a few minutes ago. You wait too, even though it was turned back. Couldn't see you. Bye. He sadly walked home, and once he was safely inside, you couldn't hold your front in any longer. All morning, Baxter acted as if he had to be the one who needed to earn approval. To him, you weren't individuals getting to know each other. He was an outsider who had to jump through hoops or be excluded. That was the impression you got. It was more than upsetting. Maybe he took it that hard because he was so tired. That felt like wishful thinking, but you thought so anyway. It was possible Baxter would be more comfortable after he rested. And if he wasn't, then you'd hope that he would allow you to show him that your company didn't have to be like that. The rest of the day was focused on your family, and it overall was a great one. It was a nice spending the afternoon with your aunt and uncle, Moms and Liz, and you remembered to tell them Baxter said hi. You were half asleep when you finally made it home and collapsed onto your bed. Soon morning had come again. The afternoon that followed moved strangely fast and slow because you knew there was another date at the end of it. Exactly as promised, you received a text with a set hour to meet him at his condo. Max framed you that it was going to be late when you would be leaving, so I recommend that you have dinner as usual. Apparently, this place did not serve meals, only drinks and appetizers. Interesting. Along with that, Baxter made the eyebrow raising suggestion that you should wear formal attire. Even more interesting. He included an assurance that he'd be prepared when you were ready to leave. During dinner, you mentioned that you were going out for drinks with Baxter later. Your moms were still commenting on your plans when you left to get ready. Even a few teasing remarks over the dress code floated upstairs to you. When you opened your drawer, your mind was made up. You'd wear something formal. It was odd putting on some of your nicer things when you had no clue what you were even dressing up for. But there was also something exciting about having that mystery, too. Looking at yourself in the mirror, you admired the sophisticated person staring back. It wasn't often that you did this. Slowly but surely, you were figuring out this growing up thing. There were a few minutes left before you had to leave, so you made sure that you had everything you might need while you were out. You ran through the essentials: phone, house key, money, ID. Especially felt for Baxter, you didn't want to run into a similar problem of forgetting something important. It was a good reminder for both of you to be careful. Once you knew it was all there, you went downstairs and waved to your moms on the way out of the house. Their goodbyes and well wishes reached you as you locked up. You walked down the street and arrived at Baxter's house. Quite literally, seconds after ringing the doorbell, you heard the rattle of the doorknob turning. The door casually opened, not too fast, not too slow, and there on the threshold was Baxter, though this time he wasn't in his pajamas, but instead a full suit. That is naturally also black and white. Hello, thanks for coming. He took a deep breath, so much for looking the part. Honestly, he tended to dress properly. Baxter was still in another stratosphere in comparison. That suit was probably tailor-made. You're fantastic, Beanie. I can't tell you enough how delighted I am that you're accompanying me today. You're sure. Absolutely. You'd be one of the best dressed attendees there. Thanks, I was hoping you wouldn't disappoint. You would disappoint me? I don't imagine that's possible. This suit looks very good on you. Baxter smoothed the front of his jacket. He had enough experience to know just how charming he looked in that informal attire, and he wore it proudly. But that sight suddenly paled in comparison. He ran like your compliment was a true badge of honor. Thank you very much. I'm always thrilled when an opportunity arises to wear it. Now that you got a good eyeful, you could discern that Baxter was truly himself. The exhaustion and embarrassment from yesterday's morning adventure was entirely removed from his features. Mm. That was but silently still worried about what happened before. Couldn't shake any part of it, especially how upset Baxter got about the whole incident. This time, though, he should understand that you weren't expecting him or his plans to be perfect. So you're prepared to remind him if things came to that. Shall we go? This isn't something we want to be late for. Lead the way. And so you both climbed into his cart and we're off. Baxter drove you out of the neighborhood. Your attention lingered on the starry sky for a moment, able to see a good view of the moon until he took a lazy turn. When you turned back to Baxter, his expression said little. He still offered no obvious hint about your destination. The only thing you could count on was that the place would serve some form of liquid. Probably. So why recommend formal wear? Well, he just diligently stared at the road, not yet out of the residential streets of Sunset Bird. You caught a glimpse of excitement as he continued talking. How? You recall I mentioned how he saw some shows while on my trip, within a trip. He called that my inspiration. Once you virtually accepted my invitation, began to endeavor to search for a particular performance we could see together. I had high hopes for what I could manage. It was such short notice, and happily, I doubt shall be you shall be disappointed. He let his words settle, drumming up the anticipation. Coincidentally, the car rolled to a stop at a light. He turned to you with a proud grin. Tonight we'll be seeing a live show featuring comedy of error styles romance. Sweat pressed on the gas, and he turned on the main road. A show. It wasn't something you were expecting, but then again, it was Baxter. You're getting the impression he liked to surprise you. Wait. What about drinks? Unless there's a cafe in the middle of the theater, that was a very misleading invitation. Not a cafe, but Baxter smile grew. He expected your action. They do serve drinks, an excellent selection from what I found. And it will only be drinks. There's no food on the menu. He shrugged his shoulders, not particularly finding that to be a loss. You were glad you weren't hungry. However, as promised, the drinks are crucial to the experience. You see, since some grand arena, you'll find tonight's entertainment is at the particularly immersive setting of a jazz bar. All patrons will witness the story unfold in that very room. His voice lowered theoretically so, fitting for the topic of conversation. Also, if you like, it's possible for the actors to interact with you directly. That's amazing. You never heard of anything like that in the area. You wondered how Baxter had found it. Sounded like so much fun. He let out a single gleeful chuckle and brightened considerably. I thought you'd appreciate it. It was so fortunate that they were having a performance tonight. No kidding, it was perfect. You couldn't wait to get there. He pictured the place, figuring it looked classy. Maybe there'd be a band in the corner and elaborately dressed actors right out of an old Norman movie. How exciting you get to see the shows up close. Baxter drove into the heart of the city, passing by the twinkling lights, the urban night, until he pulled into a public parking lot. Switched his phone's map app to walking mode. It's an 8-minute stroll from here. He shrugged, not needing to point out that walking tended to be your main form of transportation anyways. Both of you exit the car, and Baxter made a note of where exactly he was leaving it. Luckily, the lot was well lit and located in a busy area. It'd be hard to miss. Led you across the road and then followed the sidewalk until his phone proclaimed that you had reached the correct building. Baxter got the door for you. Sorry, I was eating another cookie. Baxter got the door for you. Thanks. Of course. Instead, he switched his phone off the map, continuing tapping away at it. Now, where is it? He huffed as he scrolled the screen. He could immediately tell that he found what he was looking for from his reaction. He finally relaxed into his normal state of friendly nonchalance. Kirsten, you poked your head closer to read what it was. It made sense when you saw it was the digital confirmation of his purchase tickets. Front view was a small line where a man would check tickets before waving people onward. Baxter slipped into the back, and he waited until it be needed. I'm glad we arrived on time. Missing the show is likely the only chance of this event going awry. We make it work, even if we're late. The other guests in line were dressed to the nines. Some were even in vintage clothes. Baxter's previous advice was correct. The wait wasn't too long. After chatting with Baxter for a moment, it was his turn to show his digital tickets. Baxter was young, probably only a few years older than you. Baxter in his eyes spoke to the fact that this was nowhere near the start of his day. Those are for you and your friend, right? You know, I took a step next to Baxter, making clear that you were here together. Cool, cool. Thanks for coming in. We are thankful for you having us. Baxter shoved his phone into his bucket for good once he got approval. Expected the two of you tilted his head to the side. Here are some ground rules before you enter the show. Everyone gets them. Begin explaining the guidelines. I sent a list that he had obviously said hundreds of times before. For the most part, the rules wanted you to act as a polite human being. You can do that. Last, if you want to actually participate in the show, you can take one of these necklaces. Going into a box full of glowing jeweled necklaces. Each was gaudy enough that anyone wearing one would be noticeable in a crowd. Wearing one of these beauties means you're a part of the same world as the actors are. No necklace, no participation. The actors will treat you like an invisible audience member. Still speak out if you're suddenly inspired, but nobody's going to put focus directly on you. So, any takers? It'll be my pleasure. Baxter volunteered immediately, and the usher fished a necklace from the box. I'd like one too. Baxter pulled out a second necklace and handed them out with an encouraging expression. Enjoy the show. You're waved off and allowed to enter into the showroom, past heavy double doors. The showroom was a sight to behold. From floor to ceiling, it was lit up, yet none of that was bright enough to be blinding. The bar was full of expensive bottles and gilded engravings. Back had a pit for musicians, large enough for a full band to play. The instruments were already set up. You were taken to the bar and seated at the two empty stools at the end. The booths along the walls were already filled with groups of other guests, laughing and clicking glasses. They had a full house. This was a popular event, maybe a bigger deal than what Baxter had presented it as. The ages varied. Some of the crowd was made up of fresh-faced 20-somethings, while others were silver-haired elders. You may have been the youngest in the room. And everyone was dressed up. Sequins, dresses, fitted suits, and expensive jewelry as far as the eye could see. No broad generalization to be made about the kind of people who would watch a show at a jazz club, other than that most of them knew how to dress. The few exceptions in casual clothes stuck out between all the elaborate, well-coiffed looks. That second, Usher bowed and left you alone, just for a bartender to appear out of nowhere and picked it right up where you left off. Fetched each of you a drink, many smooth in practice. Nice to see you tonight. Just let me know when you're ready to order. Of course. The bartender inclined his head coldly and then busied himself with polishing a glass with a white cloth. The jazz bar took the immersion seriously. Even the guy serving drinks had the proper aesthetic for the world of the show took place in. He wore a subtle eyeliner, and then there was something about how he carried himself that made him seem like he had wandered off a movie set, especially with highly coordinated, shabby clothes for a uniform. She looked at Baxter before examining the menu. From first glance, it was impressive. In total, it held 5 pages of drinks, each with detailed descriptions, and some even had photos. You turned to the last section, entirely for non-alcoholic drinks. Read the blurbs, enjoying both the descriptiveness and the sense of humor. A few moments later, a waiter in full suit turned up. His tie was muted, maroon. The only thing separating him from his clients was his pad for taking orders. Wonder why he approached you rather than leaving you to the bartender. Maybe because it was so busy? Welcome to our show. Can I get you anything, or do you need some more time? Baxter leaned forward and assured, no hesitation. I'd like a baby Bellini, please. Baxter passed the menu back. The waiter took it with a polite nod, then turned to you. That's every option, one final read through, and then said you would like. Sorry. Sorry. I'm eating another cookie. Here, hold on. Let me just eat the last cookie so I don't have to keep stopping. I don't know what you want me to do. The only reason why I have cookies is because I made them. You can make your own cookies. And that drink is done, by the way. Never gonna taste another one again. I mean, that works, right? Mm. You hand your menu over and the waiter put it with Baxter's. Inclined his head politely one more time. Thank you, esteemed guest. I'll return shortly. The waiter sauntered off and vanished through a side door away from the bar. It'll have to do. Nothing else I can do. Baxter's fingertips tapped the counter rhythmically. The soft sounds faded into a din around you. He met your inquisitive glance with confidence. I knew what I wanted as soon as I saw that name. I firmly appreciate sparkling drinks as well as peaches. The wicked smirk, his voice lowered to a husky ramble. I would prefer without the baby, however. You snickered. It's only the truth. The distance the musicians filtered in onto the stage from the backstage. The sounds of tuning strings took over the soundscape as they prepared for the big event. The action approaches. There were still a few minutes before he thought the production was scheduled to start. He was full of anticipation but still relaxed. The two of you chatted over your respective jazz music experience until the waiter arrived with the drinks. The waiter carried a silver platter with stiff formality, passed out the glasses, now leaving fingerprints due to his white gloves. Curiously, neither drink had been filled at the bar you were sitting at. You placed your elderflower cordial on the counter in front of you before setting down Baxter's baby Bellini. Thank you so much. Gently, Baxter lifted his drink to his lips and sipped at the fruity beverage. He appeared as the very picture of sophistication with a stem glass in hand and a distant, unreachable gaze. Sitting there with him, everything sunny hit you. His formal clothes, his fancy drink, the glamorous setting, and his dazzling smile looking together, he had pulled out all the stops for this adventure. Felt like whiplash compared to what happened with the far simpler, much more normal cafe date. It had been intentional. You were certain that this sparkling glitz was his goal. He practically said it out loud with his original invitation. You were never going to underestimate him whenever he got an opportunity to prepare. He picked up your drink and sampled the refreshment. Delicious and had a pleasant consistency. After a flicker of the lights and an electric moment of silence, you heard the sound of a keyboard. The crowd hushed, waiting on bated breath, and the rest of the band kicked in. A saxophone cut into the song before being backed by chorus trumpets. A bass player strummed along while the drummer kept the time. Everyone around you strained, on the lookout for something. Nobody was sure what, but they know when they saw it. The double doors of the front opened, and all eyes were on a pair as they entered. The leader strode in with their heels clicking against the glowing walkway, her form-fitting evening gown sparkling in the dazzling lights. She strode to the center of the room, a grimace on her red-painted lips. Behind her, another actor casually followed. They easily could have been passed over, especially with many of the guests around them dressed far more formally. This character was plain in appearance, especially compared to the glitter of the other. They took quicker steps and reached out. Both of the characters came to a abrupt stop at the center of the room. The glamorous one spoke loudly, letting her words carry over the bed. My darling friend, you know I don't have time for this. To prepare for the show and must rest my voice. Else will I manage to sing. The singer sidestepped away from her friend, greatening the space between them. I do not want to discuss this. The friend shrunk away, but refused to back down. There was fight in the way they stood. Singer sighed. She crossed her arms, her frustration towards the topic, making her next word bitter. It is more than enough that my parents and his parents keep bothering me. You don't need to add to that number, my dear. I can't leave it alone now when you're making such a mistake. The singer put her hand up, dismissing her friend. Her movements were as sharp as her stilettos. I repeat, I don't have time for this. I'm going to my dressing room. Wowza. She swept across the room and then glanced your direction before quickly looking away. She exited through a door near the band. You were struck by her last expression. Was that sorrow? Longing? Either way, you had gathered the situation. The two were acquainted, and the diva was a performer at the venue. Her friend wasn't. They had come to offer unwanted but likely needed assistance. Music slowed down, suddenly somber to the frantic energy of the singer's outburst. Her friend hadn't moved. They hugged their arms around themselves and slumped at her feet. You were so focused on them that when a voice came from right behind, you almost followed your soul. Like tugging to a brick wall, isn't it? You turned your head over to the bartender. He was the same man who had passed you the drink menu. He was still working, polishing a glass. It was part of the bit all along. That's probably wasn't even a real bar. Yet again, their commitment to realism surprised you. Ryan took a deep breath before running over to the counter. Now that they were closer, you could tell their clenched hands were shaking. They directed a scout at the bartender in full force. You need to talk to her. Unlike when they had spoken to the singer, the words were bidden out. They weren't as close to the bartender, not willing to allow him the same niceties afforded to their friend. The bartender scoffed in their face. He wasn't any fonder of them. But he was trying to retain an ounce of professionalism and decor. Why would I? I got no attachment to that lady. None of the crowd was buying it. You heard unconvinced snorts throughout the room. And she acted like I wasn't even here. Besides, she wants the stage, and that's it. All I'm good for is watching her, same as everyone else in this world. Grab the glass tightly. You can faintly hear the polishing cloth squeak against it. Not interested in my words, just as she told you. There's no time for that. Fred objected harshly, pointing a finger into the bartender's face. They weren't letting him get away with such a falsehood. She can't admit it because he won't admit it. You're making me laugh, kid. The only folks who want us together are you and our parents. He showed the friend away by flinging his hand through the air. He had the audience captivated, half of them flinching from the gesture. I'm working. Don't block the bar. Friend tossed their hair at him before they sulked away. They waved at the booth of necklace wearing guests and then slid into the edge of the cushion. They rolled their eyes and their entire head along with it, potentially exaggerating, and their new table mates snickered. I don't know how I put up with either of them. You were trying to get the feel for the show. All the actors' behaviors were turned up to 11 for the sake of comedy. And the heart of the story was clear. The venue singer and his bartender were in love, but wouldn't admit it due to outside pressure and fear that the other didn't feel the same. A clattering sound brought your attention back to the bartender with the glass he had been polishing away. Sainsbury highly glanced around for his nose task, settling on you and Baxter. Gaze dropped to your necklaces and he gave a professional smile. You're both in the story world. Can I get either of you anything? Refills and a drink on the house. Consider an apology for all the ruckus. Leaned over the counter, nodded pointedly at the friend. They blocked their face with their hand and sunk into the booth, trying to escape the stare. One of the guests at the table happened to have a paper fan and held it out to them. They gratefully took it and hid behind it instead. The bartender shook his head, fed up. Baxter, meanwhile, grinned. They'll be delightful. I could use another baby Bellini. Of course, sir. Even while the picture poise and polite manners, Baxter gave the air of being quite smug over the formal address. Bartender shifted closer to you. You can now smell the spice cologne. And you? I get another round of this, or maybe not. Picked up your glass and swirled the drink around. No need to hold up the show for long. Asked the bartender for baby Bellini too. Why not? Got it. Bartender looked around the shelves of the fake bar, but scratched his head. Darn, I'm missing something. I would tell the owner he needs to keep this place better stocked. Graham was a little more earnest complaints, not one to give up. He thought about his options. Considered with amusement as the friend peeked out with a flush on their cheeks from the other side of the room. I'm right, there's some in the back. I'll return with your drink soon. Of course, there's no need to hurry. I appreciate it. Baxter looked at his existing baby Bellini with the drama of a supervillain. He wondered if he was being unaware or trying to put on a good show. The bartender threw his cleaning cloth over his shoulder and briskly abandoned his station. Disappeared through a curtained door beside the bar. Guess that was the real drink station was through there. You noticed the actual waiter bounced from table to table, fulfilling orders even during the performance. Made sense to keep the supplies somewhere off stage so the bar could keep putting out drinks no matter what was happening with the story. That the bartender and Baxter had to retort to herself as to where the action went. Most of the crowd's eyes were away from the tables. The friend character had scrambled out of the booth, paced along the length of the room. They were still troubled, stopping just short of biting their nails. Just as they clasped their hands together, the singer made her reappearance. Music swelled as she sashayed out of her dressing room, once more the center of attention. Her presence spellbound the crowd, instantly taking focus. Ah! The friend cautiously crept over to her, stepping around the tables between them. Feeling refreshed? Of course, darling. I'm a professional. Speaking of professionalism, why didn't you say hi to the bartender earlier? He is here, you know. Singer scoffed, echoing the exact same cadence the bartender had before. They are a perfect match of stubbornness. He doesn't like me. He made it very clear. He told his parents as much. He told my parents. She struck a defined pose, sounding utterly disgusted. Who does that? What a cad. Her friend scratched the back of their head. Their face twisted comedically as they chose their words with care. Didn't you tell his parents that you did not like him when they suggested it? Alistair Crowell, when your parents accused you of being attached to him, you denied it vehemently, with him in the room. The singer helped, but didn't deny the events. She and the bartender's relationship was messy. And isn't it true that you do like our illustrious bartender? If your foolish parents hadn't meddled, you would be all over each other by now. The singer let out a deliberate, prideful laugh. It was dark and barely concealing very real hurt. Do not even pretend. He does not care for me. And I don't care for him. She cast her gaze over the pockets of attendees gathered around her and spread her arms wide. I bet everyone in this room heard him bad-mouthing me as soon as I left, didn't you? Hmm. He said he doesn't think you like him. She snapped her fingers, pointing out. The weight of the room's stares landed on your face. Good, because that's exactly right. The crowd laughed at that, and she played them into a boisterous chatter. The room finally settled, and the singer had passed along a few more barbs above the bartender and slung an arm around her. Can't you please hear me out? The singer groaned and shrugged out of her friend's embrace. She backed up with a frown. I need a drink. She spun to face the bar before thinking better of it. Apparently she didn't need a drink that badly. Not here, of course. I have standards. The sole of her shoe tapped on the floor. She needed action to deal with all that restless energy. I believe this counts as an emergency. Please hold. I need to fetch my crisis bottle from my purse. She struck her nose high in the air and swan off to her dressing room once more. Fred stood alone in the center of the room. The disgruntle of the music made the room quiet. The distance, a door slammed. The diva reached her room. Her abandoned friend visibly winced at the anger of the noise. They closed their eyes and mentally counted 10. Slowly, their stance unwounded, they forced them to relax. They glanced furtively to the left and then to the right. Okay. The last actor left spoke to the entire room, projecting their voice loudly. While they're gone, does anyone have any ideas to get these two to admit their actual feelings? It's been weeks of me putting up with their arguments. Thank you for the hydrate. I Alright. Weeks putting up their arguments. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm plumb out of ideas. People began to shout things out or whisper amongst groups. The friend listened attentively as if one suggestion might hold the key of their survival. Not all the ideas were positive or even workable plans. Just give up. I'm too stubborn for that. They aren't getting out of this that easy. Lock them in the back room together until they confess. Tried that last week. My friend knows how to pick the lock. Try making the bartender jealous. Set her up with someone else. I'll do it. Wait, aha. The friends spied a vase full of flowers on a table near the back. She came to collect them in a bouquet. They should work. The flowers can be given to our singer in celebration of to our performance. She thinks they're from the bartender, maybe. This new electric smile on their face contrasted the previous expression. For a moment, though, they faltered. But I can't give these, sir. She'll know immediately that they weren't from the bartender. Would anyone else be willing to help out? I know those two aren't giving the best impression, but when they aren't trying to prove each other wrong, they're very cute together. They searched the crowd. They searched through the crowd. Brow furrowed. Please? I'll do it. Your voice rang through the room, and someone started clapping. It was Baxter. Thank you. Bound towards you and placed the bouquet in your hands. Their sincere gratitude caught you by surprise. You're a hero, I swear. Anyway, here's the plan. Although their tone was hushed, as you'd be when sharing a secret, their pitch carried throughout the space. They're a talented actor, especially without any microphone to aid them. I'll go get her. You need to call her over. Pretend the bartender got those flowers for her, but was too shy to hand them over directly. Okay, I'll say the bartender is a chicken. Got it. Maybe don't compare him to Poultry. She'd keep insulting him. I can see her doing that. Don't worry, I'll get the mission done. He shook the flowers like ringing a victory bell. They started at your energy. Yes, I appreciate your enthusiasm. The friend gave a thumbs up his grip, scampered off to where the singer had left. Baxter inspected the flowers held in your hands. He approved of the bouquet. It would make for a nice gift, circumstance aside. Familiar smirk appeared on his lips. He technically stroked the pillow with the back of a knuckle. His voice was low in your ear. This is unlikely to work, but I do admire the friend's effort. Oh, shush you. You affectionately tried to hush Baxter. His grin only grew. I think much of the crowd is skeptical. That's part of the fun. The door to the singer's dressing room swung open, and the friend pulled the singer back to the main room. Their arms were locked together, but the singer was dragging her very tall high heels all the way. One back of her hand was a tiny bottle, no doubt the aforementioned emergency alcohol. It was already half gone. It's not good to stay holed up by yourself all the time. You don't need to hide from everyone. I'm not hiding. I'm simply very busy. Uh huh. Since they weren't a fool like the parents, the friend didn't buy that at all. Once the friend reached the center of the room, they released the singer. She rolled her shoulders back, still affronted by the rough treatment. Showtime! Flower delivery! You bellowed loudly enough the people seated across the room could hear you. I have something for you. Sarah snapped her head towards the bar, narrowed her focus on you. Down on you. Her dress swished as she approached, held up the bouquet. Her suspicious acknowledgement gave you a pause. Where did these come from? The bartender left them for you. Miss Starlet gasped and pressed both hands to her chest. She squinted hard at the flowers as if it was a nest of snake. She unscrewed the cap of her small bottle and tipped it between her. She chugged the remaining liquid down. She got a huge laugh from the audience. She slammed her empty bottle down the bar's counter and gasped for air, the frightening glare. But gently and slowly, ever so slowly, she reached out. Her fingertips touched a single flower stem. She paused and finished the moment and wrapped her digits around it. You stayed immobilized as if she were a butterfly and any moment would send her fluttering off. Without warning, there came a shout from the far end of the bar. Got your drinks right here. Every head turned to see the bartender making his reappearance, a tray of drinks balanced on his right arm. Sorry for late, just had to. He froze mid-sentence, staring at the scene he returned to witness. The singer sitting next to you being offered a bouquet, a single flower clutched in her hand. It was deathly quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the band had stopped playing until... Suddenly the singer let out a more fine shriek. She flung the proffered flowers and bolted, beating a frantic, desperate escape. She careened around the corner and then slam. The hefty sound of a door being rammed shut. Another awful silence formed, having remained frozen when the singer fled. Bartender's attention returned to where you and Baxter were at the bar. His eyes were drilling holes into you, his glare darting between your face and the remains of the banquet still in your grip. He'd caught you red-handed, literally on account of the roses. It was unspeakably awkward, even though your brain was screaming, "It's not real." Couldn't help but be swept up in the overwhelming sense of unease filling the room. The bartender marched over to the counter, his footsteps weighty and full of intent. He firmly set down the tray of drinks. The glasses rattled angrily, but not a drop was spilled. When he got to sip and folded his muscular arms, striking a pose which felt almost threatening, he bristled with suspicion. Well, now I see how it is. He flicked a finger up and down, sizing you up with it. So this lemon-headed chump is who I'm losing to, really? Rather civilly, that got a fair number of titters from the audience. But the bartender wasn't laughing. He made a bitter sound in the back of his throat and shook his head. Give me a moment. I need to blow my nose. Rather slowly, uh, shook his head. He muttered angrily under his breath. I should have known. Wait. Cry came from the other side of the room. The mutual friend, face distraught, was bustling their way over. Limbs flapping with panic. I can explain, it was all misunderstanding. What I'm trying to say is, Suddenly, with her own words, the friend attempted to lay out the situation. As well, part of the plan to get the singer to admit her own feelings. The friend nervously rumbled. You finished the practically throwing the bouquet down on the counter, and view like it was a hot potato, pulling up your arms in a non-threatening gesture. At first, you weren't convinced it would work. The bartender's expression was thunderous as a summer rain cloud. Sprouts were set at a 90-degree angle, stern as steel, but as some of the other patrons began to chime in with words of confirmation, stark contents began to clear. A number of emotions melted into each other on his face. Anger became confusion, confusion became understanding, and understanding became acceptance. He let out a long, tired sigh and unfolded his arms. Okay, I hear you. You were only trying to help. I'm sorry. Directed this apology at you. I shouldn't have gotten angry. There's nothing wrong with your hair. Don't worry, I say home the slurs and lost my cool. Chuckled bleakly. That's on me. I'm the problem here. At this, he hung his head and slouched where he stood. I can't believe she'd run away like that, screaming as if she'd seen a ghost. Like I was the worst thing in the world. Is it really that awful being around me? Am I really that bad? His voice was thick with emotion, pain behind every word. There was barely a dry eye in the whole building. A chorus of sympathies rose up from the people around you. Sounds of comfort and encouragement in equal measure. The tenor walked behind his bar and came to rest his palms flat on the counter, with his arms spread wide. I wish I knew what to do, you know? If there's something, anything. It was a frank admission, leaning heavily with resignation. He bowed his head again and was silent. There was a pointed pause. Into it, you heard Baxter gently clearing his throat. Feel for me to say, it can be hard to know what to do in these kinds of situations, but the important thing is that it's making you unhappy. Once you realize that, it should at least be obvious that what not to continue doing. Dancing around your feelings like this will only lead further and further from what you want. So why stick to the same old tune? The bartender gradually lifted his face to peer up at Baxter with an inscrutable expression. If you like the charming singer, then what could you have? Damn it. Then what could you ever have to gain by insisting otherwise? You don't need to propose or anything equally drastic, but why push her away when all you want is to get closer? Mm? No fear. There's a cat meowing. I don't know where the cat is meowing or why, but it's meowing. Oh boy, push away, and all you want is to get closer. His voice gained a faint lilting cadence, almost like he was a singer too, before it tapered away to nothing. On the countertop, you saw the bartender clench a fist. Well, you got me pegged, even everyone else in the joint, so I like her already. What good is that? She thinks I'm a joke. She wouldn't be seen dead with someone like me. We all know that too. You saw what just happened. Am I supposed to make myself look like an idiot, waltz on over, tell her we should be pals? I'd be straight up begging to be laughed at. I couldn't take it, not from her. Hmm. It's always harder to put yourself out there, but isn't it better than an alternative? One hand came up to scratch the nape of his neck in a universal gesture of awkwardness. Guess you got a point there. I understand the concern. You need to go any farther than you're able. The case that you step forward in the first place, or at least resist the urge to continue moving backwards. When the time comes, don't pull away. You'll only regret it later. Bartender rested one arm across the counter, easing into a stance that was more casual. He rubbed his shins thoughtfully. His body language was loosening up. You gathered what he was mulling over what had been said, taking it all in. After a short while, he cracked a cautious grin. You know, it's usually other people who want me to listen to their problems. And by listening, I mean I just help them pick a poison, you know? Blunt the edges when nothing else can. Never thought I'd be on the receiving end, though. Wrapped an echo on the countertop, straightened up suddenly. Oh, shit, I forgot the ice with your drinks. I get really sloppy tonight, letting personal stuff get in the way of business. Sorry about that. Gonna walk towards the heavy curtain. It's like she's echoing loudly on the floor. Let me go take her then. Maybe cool myself off for a sec while I'm at it. With the click of his heels and a swish of the curtain, he was gone. Now what? Became the unspoken conscience of the audience. An answer came shortly after. Psst. It was in the far loud hiss from the other side of the room, from behind the corner where the singer had vanished. Brooke swung back to see the lady in questioning, poking her head out. Shy as the dormouse, she cupped her fingers around her mouth, keeping to a stage whisper. Is he gone? Various assenting voices chimed in. Baxter flashed her a quick thumbs up. Seeing that the coast was clear, the singer's head vanished for a brief instant before reappearing, the rest of her following along with it. She swanned her way into the main area, oozing framed confidence. All the terror of her departure had gone, hastily paced over as though nothing. All the terror of her departure had gone, hastily pasted over as though nothing had happened. She brought up a hand to shade her eyes, casting a look around the room, her immaculate lipstick lips parted. Has my dear, delightful, meddlesome friend decided to finally beat it too? Not yet. The friend's voice called out from somewhere behind you. While everyone's attention had been elsewhere, they had managed to collect the discarded bouquet. In the other hand was the lone flower the singer herself had pitched. The little daughter. I'm sorry about the flowers. I lied. They weren't from him. They never were to begin with. Sarah clapped over her mouth and shocked. What? You tricked me! Cried projected, clear as bell, ringing with hurt and betrayal. Her pristine face was crumpled in a furious scowl, directed first at the friend and then everyone else in the room. And you were all in on it. The friend darted to her side in an effort to placate, babbling apologies over and over with a mollifying tone. I know. I'm a terrible friend, and I shouldn't have done it. Finally, something we can agree on. Fine, I deserve that, but just hear me out, okay? No, they weren't from him. There's nothing stopping you from flipping this on its head. I'm not sure I know where this is going. I'm a singer, not an acrobat. It's easy. When he comes back, why don't you give him the flowers to him? Sarah stared blankly for a few seconds, then tossed her head back and bellowed with laughter, her once lyrical voice now cold and callous and timber. Oh, my darling friend, you should really consider joining the circus. I've never heard something so ludicrous. This is serious. I know it'll work. Believe me, I'll be rooting for you, and not only me. You all think so too, right? At their prompting, the room was filled with shouts of agreement. Yeah, we'll be right behind you. It's okay. Don't be afraid. What have you got to lose? The comments came bright and fast. More people pitched in with remarks about what had happened while the singer was gone. Others simply nodded along. Though she readily dismissed her friend's suggestion, the audience reaction seemed to be more convincing. To the middle of the flurry of sound had cocked, listening intently. At that very moment, there was a shuffling from behind the curtain. Entrance, the fabric part to reveal Parter carrying a palm-sized vegetable pile high with ice. For the second time this evening, everyone froze in place. The singer slowly rotated on her heels to face him. His eyes were wide with surprise. Suddenly she stumbled forward. The mutual friend had given her a nudge, tying her off balance and towards the bartender. She wheeled around to glare at them, before snatching the single flower her friend still held, and about facing once more, she laughed at a thin, nervous laugh, then took one step closer. A wide expanse separated them. Her footfalls echoed. One step, two step, then she halted. Too afraid to continue, she wavered on the brink of turning back. All at once the crowd made good on their promise. Hollers of encouragement came from booths behind her, whoops and cheers, and whistles of don't give up now. You can do it. Once again, the singer crept across the room as though expecting to be attacked at any moment. The bartender was a statue, watching motionless. Inch by inch, the distance closed. When only a few feet remained to separate them, the singer paused. She cast an anxious look from her target to where you and Baxter were sitting. At your side, Baxter smiled and inclined his head in a nod. He fell asleep, giving her a chin thumbs up and a big grin. What are you waiting for? The poised slowness of a puppet yanking a string, she extended her arm. The flame gleamed in the dim light of the bar, a flush of red hanging in the air between them. The bloom was fragile, frail, vulnerable, like a naked, helpless heart. Offered up in a prayer, everyone in the room held their breath. Still held each other's gaze, neither speaking a word. He knew, and she knew. This time it was real. Martin suddenly placed the bowl of ice down on the bar. Moment of choice, a crossroads. Then he walked over and stretched out his fingers. Pressed the petals of the single rose, laid as a feather, and then placed his fingers over hers and gently lifted the flower free. He had accepted. The response was immediate. The space exploded with applause. Cries of delight came from all and sundry. The friend jumped up and down on the spot, suppressing a squeal. High five for exchange, there were wolf whistles and words of approval. Baxter and you shared a look of silent satisfaction. Amid the jubilation, the bartender returned to the counter to retrieve the bowl of ice. It was a metaphor. The winter cold snapped for the first blooms of spring. Then went to you and dropped a handful of cold, puzzling metaphors in yours and Baxter's glasses. He poured it again with a wink. After the first climactic moment, the remainder of the story barreled ahead. Then certain members began to open up to one another, then further. Their complications reared their heads. First came the parents who always claimed the two were fated. They were keen to seal the match, and win the satisfaction of lording it over everyone. Nobody could bear the thought of granting them satisfaction, so began the elaborate scheme to keep the two families out of the loop. Tragedy developed into farce. At every step, the audience had a part to play. One scene saw a group of patrons acting as diversion, keeping one of the parents occupied while the lovers made their escape. Another young Baxter recruited to slide secret notes along the bar while nobody was looking. And the band got to help, swapping one song in the program for another without warning. Singers defiant aria transmuted into one of passionate, heartfelt longing. It was a flurry, the characters coming and going with a chaotic energy normally could only see at a distance on stage. And all through the carefully coordinated mayhem, the agile waiter diligently continued to care to the patrons, serving more drinks, clearing tables, and lighting candles, ducked and weaved between chairs and bar stools and the other characters, sometimes even participating in the action, but normally fading into the background. At one point the singer, and he almost collided, and would have sent a particularly hefty tray flat. It was all part of the performance, and they both expertly caught the glasses before they fell. Loud appropriation from the audience. The journey was precarious, full of twists and turns, but with everyone's help, the protagonists were finally able to face their feelings for each other. Hardly anyone could have resisted getting caught up in it. When the confession came at least, a deafening cheer went up. The two shared a kiss, and the room was plunged into darkness. The band stuck up a lively tune, and when the lights came back on, all the actors took their bows to well-earned applause that seemed to last for hours. Finally, the floor cleared, the lamps dimmed to the usual twilight. It was finished. Love had triumphed, at least for one night. With the show over, things wound down for the evening. There were no more performances booked, although it was still a good while until closing. People could enjoy the room as a normal bar, the band continued to play, and patrons spilled about with their drinks. Some people were animatedly discussing the performance you just seen. The atmosphere was convivial. Max let out a content sigh and fell absentmindedly with his second baby Bellini, barely touched it since it arrived. Nature aimlessly looking around, he caught her eye with a tilt of the head and quirk of his brow. Now then, as was the show to your liking, I'm all ears, and you can be honest, it can be a lot to take in. Are you kidding? It was so fun. I'm glad to hear that. They put in a lot of effort into their craft. Their dedication to entertainment is commendable. You might be interested to know the shows aren't always like this. They have quite a wide selection of different genres. Murder mysteries are always popular, but I wasn't sure how you feel about interactive performance with a capacity for violence. Those can get rather intense, to say the least. In the play we just saw is rarely performed the same way twice. As far as I've heard, they often chop and change the premise, shuffling the characters and events around as needed. Carl, the ever-suffering friend, desperate to help the fated couple find love, well, sometimes they charm the heart of the singer or the bartender. In that situation, third parties instead refusing their help out of kindness, not wanting to get in the way of their own possible romance. Sometimes the characters' families detest one another, Romeo and Juliet style. On those nights, the singer and bartender dislike each other too, but pretend to fall in love in order to spite their own parents, and then, of course, it happens for real. and on rare occasions, they simply play hard to get, faking a quarrel for no reason other than to frustrate their would-be matchmakers and laugh at them, the guests, in private. So you see, there's an enormous potential for telling a whole host of different stories, but usually the core idea is the same. Two characters, for whatever reason, are always talking past each other, always failing to communicate, and it's up to the audience to lend a hand. I think it's a fascinating concept, personally. Very novel form of entertainment. It was intended to lead to Baxter explanation. Regardless of what you thought of the performance, it was nice to hear him passionate about something. He spun from side to side on his bar stool, a dry smirk on his face. Feels like find the fundamental concept rather amusing too. It's obvious from the outside, the way the characters let their pride become an obstacle to their own happiness. As I said before, if they want each other so desperately, what point is there in saying the opposite? It's plainly not right to yourself and the one you care for. So palatable that it compels us. The supporting cast to action. Just right for interactive theater, I suppose. Hmm. Yeah, being honest with yourself is a choice, so is being dishonest. We're of one mind on this subject then. Knowing where you stand with yourself is the first step to relating to other people. That's your little voice in the back of your head prompted you to speak in. Thanks for the tickets and the ride and everything pretty much. You know how to treat a date. It honestly surprised you that Baxter had been able to get seats at such short notice. Seemed like the place was pretty popular. The performance you'd watch had been a full house. Now to hide your curiosity, put the question to the man himself. Where exactly did you get the tickets for this? Instantly, Baxter's face tense, his easygoing smile losing some of its effortlessness. Taking down at the corners. Ah, that of course. House arms in a way that struck you as mildly defensive. Maybe you remember the friends of my parents, the ones I visited recently, or just something that they're in the performance business, theater, ballet, music, all kinds of productions. They specialize in large scale events of that nature. This venue isn't one of theirs, but they were able to pull some strings on my behalf. The question of knowing the right people who know the right people. We could have even had a full backstage access with the main cast if I'd asked. As it was, we were singled out for some special attention during the show on account of being seated at the bar. I'll have to remember to thank them for that. I'm sure they'd be pleased to know that our date went well too. Couldn't help it, your eyes widened a little. You hadn't figured that Baxter would have that kind of pull. Seeing your response, Baxter's features chilled further. His brows knitted together. He shrugged his shoulders and sighed. I do try not to lean on that kind of thing, though. Think too much. You can believe me. I appreciate it might not look like it now. You could say it's a means for me to preserve my sense of independence. It's easy to be popular if you can foot the bill. I don't want to be what draws others to me. But after all that, here I am, leaning on the same old crutch. Nothing has changed since I was 6. How quaint, how wonderful, how truly excellent. As your own Baxter was speaking more and more inwardly, Stone increasingly agreed. Is this really any better than yesterday? What have I achieved? I have to sneeze again! Oh my fucking god. Is it not gonna... It's not gonna happen, is it? Because I actually put something in front of my nose. Fuck you too. Ah. You could only sit and listen as the brief triad continued. Had Baxter been sitting on this ever since the coffee shop? It was true, he hadn't come across as satisfied by reassurance, only by a second chance. But if he had known, it'd only make him feel worse. You wouldn't have let it get this far. Baxter managed to snap out of the train of thought, his attention returning to you. He looked rather sheepish. Good! Ooh, that was a little bit loud, even for me. Didn't mean to be that loud. I'm sorry, Beanie. Perhaps it'd be best to call it a night. I won't want to start the evening after such a charming showing. Swiftly arose from the bar stool, mind made up. You didn't stop him. Having the conversation in a public place wasn't a wise plan, so he hurried to follow. Crossing the floor towards the exit, you passed the bartender and a few other cast members, who expressed your appreciation to them and got cheery waves and thanks in return. Sounds of colors became blur, and before long, he had stepped out into the street. Baxter was already a few paces down the block, heading for his car, but he stopped for you to catch up. I might be. For all we know, I am allergic to myself. He exchanged a few pleasantries on the journey home, but nothing too involved. Baxter was making an effort to keep the conversation light, just as he promised. He really didn't want to leave a bad impression. Fuck. That much was clear. You used the time and space between sentences to mull things over. There wasn't something that needed to be done, but you couldn't figure out what you could say. Imagination scenarios, it was all in the same way, with him appreciating the sentiment while not believing. It was hard to think clearly. Your head was full of the smell of fake cocktails and snatches of remembered music. Like the show and your life blending together in the shake of a mixer. Sink down into the soft leather of the car seat and let the images wash over you in waves. The stars were winking playfully overhead as you rode back in your own neighborhood. The moon was a yellow lantern floating up high. You looked out at Baxter's car, and a sea breeze danced across your cheeks. To the summer heat at the daytime, it was cool and refreshing, like the first sharp sip of a nice drink. Baxter escorted you to the front door. He was as ever determined to be a gentleman. The deliberateness of it gave you pause, in a way that it hadn't until now. He lifted the corners of his mouth, and his eyes wrinkled, a perfectly arranged smile. Good night, Beanie. I had a wonderful time. The manner he said it made it sound less like he was expressing his feelings, and more like he was stating a want, as if he was determined that it should be true. Ever since his dip in mood at the end of the event, your mind has been filled with thoughts that you couldn't grasp hold of. Those questions pressed against you incessantly. Why was he still beating himself up over what happened yesterday? Why did he seem so unlike himself before he left the bar? What was going on in that head of his right now? Having bid you farewell, Baxter moved to leave. There was a priority in making himself scarce. In his eyes there was something like tiredness, something like fear. Prospect of some other sudden indignity rearing its head was too much for him to bear. He lost the chance to save face entirely in front of you by now. Best to cut things out at the roots. To seem like that tugged at your chest. You couldn't accept him going back to that empty house to wallow in frustration. But what could you do? So I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but way back when in October, I bashed my I bashed my toe with a plywood while moving it for my nana. And I'd like to just give a little update on that because it was very badly bruised. As of now, it's been what? It was like October, so November, December, and it's the beginning of January. Roughly 3 months. It is still bruised. It is still very bruised. But it is fine. Me and Mama Beans were talking about it, and I showed her my foot, because she was like, oh, she was afraid I was gonna lose the toenail, and I was like, yeah, I haven't lost it yet. She goes, it's very fucking bruised, though, still. I was like, yeah, it still is. So, yeah. It's still badly bruised. Your mouth opened without anything to fill it, but the words somehow came anyway. Only a little, Shadow. Would you want to come inside? Things could end here, that much was certain. What you needed was more time. Baxter paused, having turned to go. The far side of him was in shadow. As he slowly swelled back to you and the light caught his face once more, his expression was conflicted. It held surprise, confusion, and no small amount of intrigue. His lips parted as if to speak, but his brow furrowed. He closed his mouth again without a sound. No lie, as soon as this is done, I'm going to go pass out. He then evidently had no idea where the present moment was leading. Neither did you. Baxter settled for a simple tilt of the head, his eyes posing a question. Hey, the night's still young, and I hear there's this really great local place to grab a drink. It's really close by. Finished out your house key and jingled them, pointedly. Would you care to join me? Despite playing it off as nothing serious, you were silently willing Baxter not to go. Just a little longer. At your elaboration, Baxter couldn't help but be amused. He recovered from his initial trepidation enough to laugh at your desperate plan. Drink, you say, a fascinating suggestion. How decidedly original of you. One eyebrow was raised, his voice dripping with irony. You schooled your expression in the picture of innocent. Whatever could he be implying? There's nothing the least bit absurd about this request. Baxter's feature relaxed into a look of fond regard. As I searched your face for a moment, one hand was tucked casually into his back pocket. Though some of the tension appeared to be gone, the sense was still one of indecision, contemplation. For some reason, your imagination conjured up a vision of him at the woodland crossroads, saying just as he was now, carefully weighing which way to go. At length his mind was made up. Baxter cleared his throat, trying to stance facing you square on. Thank you for the offer, Benny. For kindly be so generous with your time. I should like to take you up that suggestion if it's no inconvenience. A drink would be lovely. Rush of leaf hit. Thank goodness. You still had a chance to turn things around. He likely had a similar thought, though your ideas on what would achieve were certainly different. Flashing a cheerful smile, you unlocked your front door and led the way inside. Baxter dutifully followed, pausing only to wipe his shoes on the doormat, just as Ma would want. All the lights were on in the living room, and there was a brief flash of panic at the prospect that you lured Baxter into a run-in with your family, worst possible time. Luck would have it, when you poked your head around the doorway, the room's empty. You couldn't hear movement. You were alone for now. So you trusted for Baxter to sit down and make himself comfortable. First, accepted the invitation. Rather than crouch on the couch, you sauntered over to the table and pulled up a chair, prim and proper to the last. Having got this far, you willed the hostly components of your brain, into brain. You will the hostly components of your brain into motion. To see a professional like the bartender at work, you got standards to live up to. First things first, the technical reason for why you invited him. What do you want to drink? We have juice, milk, other things? Just water, please. I don't have the appetite for much else right now. He replied, came without hesitation, but it lacked the usual degree of confidence he come to expect from him. Sound that spoke volumes. While nobody could go as far as to call him fragile, there was no denying that Baxter was a long way from his usual bold self. Gotcha. One water coming right up. Reach for a pair of glasses, deciding to stick with water yourself to keep things simple. After pouring some chilled water from the fridge, you brought the drinks over to the table and sat down across from Baxter. Thank you. Baxter sipped his water quietly, then placed it back down in front of him. It struck you fully how bizarre the situation would appear to anyone who happened to be watching. The two people sitting at the dining room table, dressed to the nines, gingerly sampling glasses of plain water. Mentally whispered an apology to the tender of the Gels bar. You were a little ashamed at your feeble imitation of his skills. It's a good thing your moms weren't around to see this either. They never let you live it down, not in a million years. But that was all beside the point, and Baxter knew, that the pretext of coming over for drinks was simply that, a thinly veiled excuse. Only a very particular kind of emergency would necessitate visiting a neighbor's house for nothing more than a glass of water. And yet, in a way, it had been an emergency, a relationship emergency. Certainly hoped that this brief brown moment would give you both the chance to clear the air, with some kind of mutual understanding. Ash reached down the fill with a tumbler of water before him. Though without lifting it to his lips again, he stared down into it, searching after while he spoke. I feel like I must sound like a broken record, but it's exceedingly considerate of you to extend your hospitality this far. I'm grateful. His gaze didn't lift, but one corner of his mouth did. It looked as though it took some effort. Retained it just long enough to be sure you'd seen, and then it dropped like a heavy weight. Riley sighed once, as though to catch his breath, he continued. I must confess, however, if up to me, none of this would be happening. I myself regretting my actions up to this point. Things would have been better, far the better, if I had not said anything after the show, or if you hadn't treated them as if they mattered. It was a brief moment of frustration, and it caused so much trouble. An evening ruined by nothing and for nothing. And this was already my second go at inviting you out for an occasion.
We don't need to retread what happened the first time. He tossed his head to one side and made a bitter sound with his tongue. I should be better than this. It irks me so much to make the same mistakes over and over. His voice trembled with frustration, his eyes dark and downcast. He dropped to a forceful whisper, repeating the words as if to convince himself of that, as if to nail them to his chest. I was better than this, wasn't I? Why do you feel I had to be? Baxter lifted his eyes to meet yours. They were narrowed, their intention unreadable. The cruel curve to his mouth spoke for itself. However, with a jolt, you realized it was a look of poorly disguised mockery, so you could tell it wasn't meant for you. When that cunning smile opened and the words came, pointed and pain and sharp, it was all aimed inward at himself. This whole situation, it's asinine. I haven't known you long enough to be causing this kind of trouble. I'm quite clearly a stranger. I won't even be here long enough for that to change. As welcoming as you all are here, that can't be forgotten. I was only ever supposed to be part of the fun. Worthwhile piece of summer scenery. Someone who added to experience, not held it back. Shouldn't have to baby me to sit there and spend your time making me feel better when I don't keep it together. His hands were clenched on the table, the knuckles a shock of white. The mess I am in the mornings, the drama I cause in the evenings, the person I am when the show is over. Those aspects shouldn't be any of your concern. I don't provide that support to you, do I? And how could I when I don't know you? No, it's not fair to make you worry, or worse, guilty over what happens to me. What matters is that when we're together, it's for the pleasant parts of existence. The less ideal shades of life can be managed separately. He slumped back a little in his chair, the power having gone out and of his voice. That's all I wanted. The blood was still pounding in ears. Witnessing Baxter like this, as you'd never seen him before, was equal parts exhilarating and shocking his inner conflict, now an exposed wire. How many times had you sat across from him these past few days? And how was it that only now did it feel like you were truly seeing the person in the chair opposite? You took a moment to process your thoughts, studying your breathing. Here, at last, was the crux of the matter. It was clear that when Baxter came to Sunset Bird, he had set himself a series of rules about how much to involve himself, how much of an impact to make. Like the tourist concept of leave only footprints behind, but taken to the extreme. There wasn't space for him to be complicated, to add negative emotions, to show different sides of himself to anyone. To do so would be a dereliction of duty. You weren't going to criticize him wanting his privacy. It was important to him, and you respected that. This kind of framing, one where he had an obligation to minimize himself for others' benefits, was only causing pain, in spite of what he felt was right. You cared too much about him by now to let him carry on like this. Cautiously open your mouth. Getting to know you is what makes it worthwhile. He spoke earnestly with as much composure as he could manage. Right now, more than anything else, Baxter needed to know how wrong he was. He wasn't a burden, and his feelings didn't hurt you. You tried your best to communicate this to him. Then another thought made itself known to you, one that ached under your ribs. Couldn't help but give it voice. Finally meet again, after all these years, you haven't been nobody to me for a long time. Said your piece and went silent. The house lay still. The windows were empty portals, black with night. The only sound was that of both of your breathing. I'm so gonna need sleep. Our eyes had been locked with yours during the speech. The last heat of his frustration smoldering within them. Now in the quiet, you finally felt the embers fade completely. Kate slowly slid to one side, then down. He swallowed. Why, the sound drifted to you across the table, small and hushed, a sigh. Thank you. It was said simply, with no pretense or cravats. Baxter had given up the fight with himself for now and accepted that you had told him. Let your body unclench as you watched the crease in Baxter's brow begin to disappear. A hand emerged from beneath the table to lift his glass, and he slept his water eyes closed. You took this as your cue that discussion had run its course. There's no guarantee that things would change going forward. You weren't so arrogant as to think that Baxter's behavior would be altered all at once. Nothing drastic, anyway. He listened to your feelings, but who could really say how it would impact what happened in the future? Past couple of dates had held a mirror up to Baxter, showing him a reflection that wounded him. Getting too close to the bone, there are hurts there that ran deeper than he'd let you reach. It didn't mean he mistrusted you. It may not have been a matter of trust to begin with. But you hoped that with time Baxter might come to count on the fact that there was at least one person out there who would accept him. You wanted to give him that. Another souvenir to remember you by. The minutes passed, and sip by sip, the two of you drank your way towards the bottoms of your water glasses. The silence couldn't be called effortless, effortlessly comfortable, but it wasn't awkward, compatible, perhaps. Baxter sucked in the last drops of his cup and then moved to stand unhurried. Thank you again. This was refreshing, both the water and the conversation. Still, I should be going. He was matter of fact, with an air calm finality. You weren't able to disagree. You nodded, rose in parallel. Let me take the glasses back over to the kitchen. Managed what you had set out to achieve. It was all right to let things end here for the time being. The night had spun around your way, and hopefully Baxter could see it as a positive when you reflected on it. You walked with him across the living room to the front door. It's back to you, he heard, and began to say something. I appreciate you taking the time to discuss this with me. For listening, in spite of, well, just himself, the meaning clear. Before you could tell him not to mention it, he reached the front door and came to face you. There was a mischievous grin on his face. You welcomed it like an old friend. Now, since the final act is over, how would we rate this evening? I sincerely hoped it was acceptable on the whole. The question had a laugh to it. Underneath there was the faintest hint of that self-mockery from before. Now it was a toothless, empty of malice, and entirely in good humor. Could not but snort a laugh. Unrestrained and affectionate, oh Baxter, how quickly he recovered his footing. Don't worry, it's a solid hit with the judges. You haven't lost your touch. I had a good time. Thanks for a fun evening out, and for stopping by too. Don't mention it. The pleasure was all mine. Good night, Beanie. There's a moment of pause before Baxter looked down, squeezed yours in return. Put up suddenly, you thought he was about to kiss it. Said he stroked a thumb twice across your knuckles, still cool from the glass of water, hummed a wordless noise of contentment. It was a comforting gesture, full of fond feeling. You stood like that a while, not speaking. Baxter liked you, even if he didn't want you to know him. You're sure of that much. Then he made good on his promise to depart. Baxter stepped out into the dark night. The door shut behind him, and the long day came to a close along with it. When he was gone, you remained in the entryway a while, lost in thought. You'd see him again, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps not. He might have plans, but there would be a next time. You saw your face reflected in the dark glass window by the door, found yourself wondering which Baxter you meet when the day came. Whoever he was, whatever it was, you'd be there. Holy crap. Alright. Which one do we do next for Baxter? We got hang, mun, and planning. Who wants to pick it? Mountain? We click this, save. Alright. We saved it. On that note, I'm ending it. Let me see. Who is live right now? Mm. I will. Give me one moment. Well, I grab. I have no clue where Cookie is. Wait. No, I do know where Cookie is. We're gonna read Cookie. Cookie is currently playing Baldur's Gate. Something that I really need to play and actually finish playing it. Because if no one knows, I've started this game so many times and I have failed to finish it. It seems like he's playing by his onesies. But on that note, I might stream later again with the game again. I may not. It all depends on how I feel. I shall see you all next time, though.